Hey, this is Gilly Woodhouse on the Osteo Business Podcast, talking all things osteo business. Here's Gilly Woodhouse, an author, speaker, award-winning business coach, and passionate advocate of osteopathy.
Hello, today I'm really excited to be sharing the screen or the podcast with Melina Harrison and Jane Greenshields. Both are epic osteopaths who I've known for ages and ages. And today we're going to be talking about hands-on money, which is the latest brainchild of these two. And but first, I thought Jane will just mention what you've been doing up till now to support osteos with your CPD hub.
Yeah, thanks, Gilly. Yeah, as you know, I created CPD Hub. I think it's about 18 months ago now, maybe a year ago, which is it's a directory for anybody who's offering a CPD course to put it on there. And the purpose of it is just for anybody looking for a CPD course to find what they want really quickly. Because at the moment, I think so many people host multiple courses within their own website. It's really hard for anybody looking for a course to specifically find the subject that they're after, location, who's doing it. So all of those things can be searched for easily in my website, and it's free to use. So please add, if you have a CPD course, please add it on there, and it's just cpdhub.co.uk. So easy to find.
Yeah, it's a brilliant idea because I think that you've hit the nail on the head there, that there is a need for that. Because, if you're looking for something perhaps a little bit more unusual to study, then it might be quite difficult to actually find it and find the details of when a course is going to be on or whatever.
Yeah.
And then fast forward, the two of you have got your heads together again, and you've come up with this great idea, hands-on money. So how did that sort of come about, Melina?
Well, Jane and I have actually worked together for 18 years. So I've had my clinic for, I think we're in our 24th year now. And Jane, most people think Jane owns the Harrison Clinic because she's actually been the face of it a lot longer than me. So we've actually had a kind of principal associate relationship for very successfully for 18 years now. So we know each other very, very well. Jane doesn't work with me anymore. She's got her own brilliant clinic on the South Coast and living the dream, working 3 days a week and enjoying that. So we both own clinics now. So we know our kind of ways of the business end, if you like. So not the clinical side, but the business side of how Jane is running her clinic and how my evolving clinic runs these days. And I opened mine in 2003 with the yellow pages and a pencil and an A4 book and a ruler and that kind of thing. And things have moved on obviously significantly. So we kind of responding, I think, a lot to what we see in the social platforms, your brilliant social platform, Gilly, where a lot of people feel free to brilliantly, kind of free to ask questions and reach out for help. But there seems to be a lot of help asking about, the business side and the money side of clinic. And I think Jane and I feel that there's a space there, an education gap really, that desperately needs filling. Because, it doesn't matter if we're an osteopath, a chiropractor, a podiatrist, a counsellor, an acupuncturist, or an osteopath. We've all hopefully got a brilliant clinical degree and worked extremely hard at being very, very good at the clinical side of things. But the vast majority of us from day one are self-employed, which means essentially we are running a business. It might be, oh, it's only kind of like the odd patient in my cabin in my garden. But if you're putting in a tax return, you are running a business. And without very often an hour's training in what that means. So we're kind of left with that little bit, navigating that whole roadmap alone. And we just felt like, and I very much navigated all that business side of things alone. And learning as I go. And I just guess we wanted to kind of answer the questions that we see daily on platforms, which might be something like, oh, income tax, I haven't got any money for that. Or tax, making tax digital. What the hell does that mean? And does it even affect me? Or I'm fully booked. My team are fully booked, but I've got no money. You know,
Yeah,
that whole thing. So
we
really,
hear that a lot.
for sure. And it can be, it can be for a number of reasons that we're working 50 hours a week. Our associates are absolutely, giving their blood, sweat, and tears to the job as well. But nobody is kind of living or getting that work-life balance that they really thought this job might deliver for them. So we just want to talk to all those subjects. And we're really not pretending that we are the experts in any of this. We bring our experience, and that is it. And hopefully, for some people that might be interesting or have some value. But what we've actually done is go out and speak to accountants, speak to financial advisors, speak to commercial property experts, speak to careers advisors, speak to money mindset coaches, and we've got all of these people on board with us to actually deliver information in webinars as we go along. So, you're not just listening to mine and Jane's version of events. We've actually got, so we're kicking off, for example, we're launching the business on the 1st of April. We wanted to align nicely with the next financial year. And we're going to start off with making tax digital. We've got a brilliant accountant called Catherine Bond. So she spent most of her career in one of the top 5 accountancy firms. She runs her own firm now. Absolutely fabulous to really break it down and tell us what making tax digital is in very simple, unthreatening, easy to understand language. So we don't feel intimidated by it, and we can just kind of go, oh, I get it. It does mean me, and this is what I need to do. So that's the first thing that we're doing.
Brilliant. I think it's very much needed because I know so many that you're working hard and not got a huge amount to show for it, and it's just about education, really, isn't it? It's like
A lot of the time.
understanding what your options are with the cash you've got left over from the family, etc.
And I think planning for the future as well. Again, when one is employed, that stuff is taken care of. You get paid if you're off sick. Potentially there's a pension there. All of these benefits that you get, but actually you suddenly have to work all of that out on your own. You need, if you don't know what your numbers are in terms of your clinic, how much profit you're making, how much take-home money you've got, you don't know how much you've got to invest. We all have to be working towards that end goal, to the retirement, the exit strategy. So there's a lot of advice along the way of that, including if you want to grow your business, talking more to the side of commercial property, leasing, buying, all of that advice. We've got a really great guy helping us train, teach that information. If you want to sell your clinic, it's just how you protect your wealth in the long term as well, which I think is really important. And that we have discussed this amongst ourselves, a discomfort talking about money within our profession. I don't know how much that extends to other professions, but we kind of want to make people feel a bit more comfortable to talk about it, to ask questions. And even if, within our platform, there'll be a safe space to do that. You can ask it anonymously. We get it that these things are important. So, yeah.
I think that's really important. I mean, I think it's a bit of a British thing as well, really, isn't it? That we're not that comfortable talking about money. And then, we're talking about caring professions here. So, 1 minute we're like care, care, care. And then the next minute we are like now pay. And not everybody, for understandable reasons, is terribly comfortable, with that. And I think what Jane and I want to do is just create an environment where we go, actually, we worked really hard for our degree. Actually, our student fees and loans, etc., are the same as anybody else's. Our skill set is absolutely huge. And it does come, like every job, whether you're a lawyer, an accountant, or you are a courier, it comes with a price tag, and there's a fee attached to it. And there should be absolutely and utterly no, I think a lot of it's imposter syndrome. There should be no
Yeah.
problem just going, this is my worth, this is my fee, and no side to that, no kind of hesitation in when somebody says to you, how much is that? It's £80.
Yeah.
And
That's it.
literally that, and your mind, instead of like, oh, I'm so sorry, should maybe be a little bit more in that, and it is worth every penny,
Yeah.
kind of
I
thing.
agree. I
Yeah,
agree. I put every new client's fees up after a tussle. But then, and that's the thing, is there's always a, oh, I couldn't possibly charge that. And I'm like,
yeah,
she
yeah. I
could.
mean,
Yeah,
there's real world
yours.
around us, and we have to be kind of smart about it and everything. But at the end of the day, I think what Jane and I want to do is create a community that actually talks to the fact that this is our profession, this is our job, and this is how we pay our rent, our mortgage, or put food on the table for our kids, or
Yeah.
provide for, those retirement years whenever we choose they
Mm.
should be. So if we want, for instance, let's look at some of those stages. If we want to take a career break, if we want to take a maternity leave, if we want to take some time off to dedicate to family, whether that's new family members, babies, or caring for elderly parents, or we want to do a staged retirement at an age that we choose. This is the job that's going to pay for all of that. So when we say hands-on money, we are talking about, and then building wealth beyond the treatment room, we're actually talking about having some form of multiple income stream, whatever that looks like. That means you don't have to have these or eye to eye with a patient to earn a fiver. So
Mm.
whether that is, you have started to invest in a small ISA in your 20s and you get some interest back on that each month, each year, that is money you are making that is not coming from putting your hand on a patient or, sitting down and saying, okay, how can I help you today? It might be that you actually think, you know what? I'm going to work 4 days a week. I'm going to hire an associate for my Fridays, or I'm going to team up with a physio. I'm going to team up with an acupuncturist, or I am going to really look at actually, the bricks and mortar around me, investing in a commercial property to run my business in, because that commercial property will add value over the term of my career as well.
Yeah.
Or maybe I want the mental break, and on a Friday I want to be a dog walker. I want a side hustle. We do see a lot of people kind of talking about how are you making money outside of the profession. Now that
Yeah.
may be because it's a tough job. It might be I just want to do something completely different some of the week, or it might be, what, it's harder than I thought to make ends meet at the moment. I just need some more money coming through the door, and maybe that isn't self-employed income. Maybe that is a bit of PAYE regular income that I can rely on. In a quiet August when everyone's on holiday or something like that. But talking really to the fact, it is a job. How do we make it pay? That really simple stuff.
Absolutely vital. And I'm thrilled that you've both come up with this concept, because it is something that I see a lot of people who are fearful of charging what they're worth, because there's that fight between giving and then asking for something in return, which, in every business that's the deal. It is exchange of value, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'll do this for you, you give me that in exchange, and that's how life works. But somehow in the private health even, that you're in, it's sort of there's this constant fight going on in there in people's minds that I notice a lot. That fear of putting prices up and everyone's going to leave, and it never happens.
No, it never happens. I mean, it
No.
really, really, really doesn't. And, we're going to talk directly to that subject, about how you set your pricing and how you make your comfort with that. We've done this for years. Jane and I have got nearly 60 years experience between the two of us.
Mm.
And really, I do remember, I trained at the BSO, and I worked for one of the technique tutors when I came out. And I think the fee was £25 at the time. So, I've been doing this a while. That makes
I was
me feel so
18, I
old.
remember.
I mean, it was around the mid-20s, I think,
Yeah.
when we started. So, I mean, we're charging 3 times that now. So, we've seen a lot of fee increases in our time. And the way that hands-on money is going to be structured, it will ultimately be a membership platform for a group of people who will have access to all of our resources, and all of our resources are in arenas. So, for example, our first arena is going to be called Know Your Numbers. And we're going to talk to some really basic stuff in Know Your Numbers, which is kind of like, okay, the first 12.5 grand roughly that you earn, you're not taxed upon. The next lot up to around 50, you're taxed at X rate, and above 50, you're taxed at this rate. So some really basic stuff. And Jane, our tech wizard, has created some fabulous kind of calculators. Literally, you can put your fee in of how much you're charging for a patient, and then kind of work out, you can go all through all lots of gymnastics and learn what you've got to live on at the end of the week or the end of the month, or what your tax might, and then you could think, oh, if I put my fees up by a fiver, or 2 quid or whatever, or I took a leap and it's a tenner more, this is what I've got left, or
Yeah.
this is what the tax bill now looks like. But
That's
some
so
really,
important because I think that,
yeah,
I remember a client a few years ago, I looked at his fees and I said, this is crazy. Everybody in this county is charging 50 quid. Where's your differential? It was like, because I know that's how people decide their fees. They look at what everyone else is charging and then they plot themselves in the middle. And I'm like, why? That's not a rule. Why? Why? Anyway, I said to him, this is ludicrous. And he said, oh, I suppose we haven't put them up for a couple of years. And I said, they've got to go up. So I talked him through putting up the first fee. And he went, oof, there was that resistance happening. And I'm like, yeah, but nobody knows what that was yesterday. So there's no judgment from anybody.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then your follow-up fee, I said, well, we can pop that up by a fiver.
yeah.
To
And
top of
yeah,
coffee.
I think one of the other things we're going to be looking at is structuring the business as well. There's still a little bit of a grey area in terms of when is an associate employed, not employed. I mean, that's a really important thing to look at because there's a lot of things that we do in clinic that might make one self-employed, even if you're technically, make you look employed rather than self-employed. For example, if you have to turn up for work at certain hours, when I worked for Mel, I did simply because that was when the room was available, but that could also be misconstrued. And so it's about how to get that clear, how to get your contracts clear, your working relationships with your associate, that in terms of the HMRC, I think it's really important so we don't come unstuck with that. So there's quite a bit of advice on that, isn't there, as well?
yeah, we've got, I mean, we've done a bit of lived it for starters, but then done a deep dive into the kind of technicalities of, how somebody, legitimately in the eyes of HMRC remains self-employed. And how the associate and the principal work that. And we're going to run a live on exactly, keeping belt and braces and clean with that. But we're going to tie in a bit of humanity, Jane and I, because we actually, a lot more than that being an issue, very much the working relationship and percentages paid, exactly, etc., is more of an issue in our clinics. And Jane and I have had some, in the 18 years we worked together, there's been some life changes for Jane's life, my life, and huge changes in both of our worlds. And we kind of like made it work. We absolutely made all those, situations and changes, some of our own lives, some of things upon us, some receptionists we didn't get on with. Blah
It
blah.
happens.
Anything. Do we like this type of tissues in the room? I don't know, kind of thing. But the really day-to-day stuff. We just want to talk to the humanity of that as well, and how we as two people managed to make it work for us, make it financially work for us. So there was gain there. But also how, the hopefully answer some questions of like, we need this structure over here. We need to keep HMRC comfortable. We need to have our contracts, terms and conditions, whatever you want to call them. But then over here, we are two human beings. And as long as our intentions are both aligned enough, it really is possible to make those relationships work. So some of it will be, you know, a little bit technical and law and this, that, and the other. And some of it will be the really basic how two people get along and make it work for both of them. So that's another one of the lives we're going to do. So again, in the structure of Hands on Money, it'll be a membership platform with all of these resources over here that are always available, and tools and things to kind of work out knowing your numbers. I'm using as one of our examples. But then we're going to have this rolling calendar of lives hosting all of these professionals who actually really know something about accounting and, you know, side hustles or commercial property or pensions or ISAs or, you know, all of that kind of stuff. So at least weekly, we'll be hosting one of our fabulous experts to talk some real important stuff that, you know, Jane and I will sort of sit in the middle, a little bit like Michael Parkinson, and ask the questions to deliver to our audience, to kind of like break everything down into the language that was missing perhaps from our degrees that we're kind of navigating, and we're chat GPTing or we're Googling and we're overwhelmed, and which bit applies to me and what do I even believe it kind of thing. So, you know, hopefully, you know, we've really curated a brilliant team. We've been working on this close to a year, Jane and I, to kind of bring it to this point. And, you know, there's a long way to go. There's a lot of people, you know, we've reached out to the IO, we've reached out to Physio First. So we're kind of really trying to get the word out. So we're reaching out to the universities as well, that really this kind of business end money management side of things really does require a considerable upskill. And this is a platform where you can get that. And it doesn't matter, you know, like I say, if you're an osteopath or a podiatrist or a counselor or whatever, you know, we are broadening it out to anybody who's in our lane, clinical lane, employed and having to navigate this and struggling a little bit, or just maybe they're not even struggling, they just want it easy. They want the convenience of go and tell me, you know, literally tell me, make it easy for me. What do I need to do? And then there it is, ABC, done, tick. Get on with being a brilliant clinician.
Yeah. With that, you were going to end up with an amazing library of information, aren't you? That people can sort of dip into and say, right, where's that webinar about ISAs? I need to dig into that. And you know, that'll be the great thing. We can either turn up with a cup of tea, or you can have a rummage afterwards and pick out what's relevant to you, you know, which is great.
That's so true, because if you use perhaps one of our calculators and you go, oh my God, actually I do have a few quid left at the end of the month. Where's that thing about what I do? Is it a cash ISA? Is it a stocks ISA? What am I going to do with it? How best do I use this few quid to kind of start creating that alternative income stream where I haven't got my hands on someone to earn a tenner?
I've learned loads about ISAs since we started. Yeah, it's been really interesting. Also, do you remember the conversation we had with Jonathan? Jonathan's friend of mine who teaches people how to trade, but he also teaches people. So if somebody is dealing with your accounts and trading for you, it's the right questions to ask. So you can ask, make sure that you know that the right thing has been done with your money. But he gave us this situation with, was it his son?
Yes.
He said to his son,
so powerful,
how to trade it. So it was 80 quid a month. Put 80 quid a month into account. Was it 80 quid? And then he showed you how to trade it.
No, it was roughly. It was £1,000 a year, wasn't it?
£1,000 a year. So you could get 18% back on it.
Yeah. And he said, if you invest that for 40 years, you'll start now, you're 20. I'm going to teach you how to do this. And if you invest that for 40 years, and he asked me and Jane, he said, what do you reckon the return is after 40 years? And we, you know, clearly couldn't, you know, I couldn't even do the money, get to my calculator and cheat. I couldn't, you know, but I think I guessed 3 million, thinking, God, that'd be amazing, wouldn't it? Kind of thing. About 80 quid a month, 3 million. God, that'd be great. And the answer was, Jane,
11 million.
So this is for all our grads out there. This is for our kids. You know, this is what me and Jane are like crying. No, why do we haven't got 40 years left, kind of thing.
If only you'd started sooner.
I know. I've only recently got a pension, and in fact, that's another one of our speakers talking about how to um, you don't have to invest loads, but it is just making a start. And I actually feel a huge relief. I'm 50 now, and this is the first time I've ever had one, and I do. Yeah, I know it's quite a small amount, but I'm really glad that I've got it in place. It's a really great relief to know that I
Yeah.
can move forward and have something at the end of my career.
I mean, we've spoken to all sorts of financial advisors that we've got on our we call them expert panel. So on our expert panel, we've got about four IFAs, and some are genuinely independent financial advisors, and some are older people. So they've walked the walk, they work for everybody, and they've got, this massive wealth of knowledge. And then we've got some younger independent, some younger financial advisors linked to some of the biggest financial houses here in the UK, very safe, bets for your money kind of thing. But again, a kind of younger advisor who is, kind of at that end of kind of going, a small amount at this stage is going to, get you close to that 11 million that these two haven't got, at the end of it kind of thing. But, you do learn things like, about compounding interest. And that really is, that there's nothing can replace starting as soon as possible, because if you look at the returns, and let's 18% is an amazing return on something, but let's look at an average of kind of anything from 6 to 8% kind of thing. The compounding interest between 10 years investment and 20 years investment is huge.
Yeah.
Absolutely huge. And again, I'm not the expert. I'm only regurgitating the information that our brilliant people have been talking to us that they will be sharing with our audience, kind of thing. But it really is. If it had been, I hope, explained to me when I was in my 20s, when all I was interested in was new outfits and my social life kind of thing, and the rent maybe kind of thing. If it had been explained in such a basic way, maybe I'd have been a little bit keener just to go, okay, that is for, my future. But on that, of course, another thing I think a lot of us can be guilty of is having this a bank account, and very much, Jane and I are talking to the subject of, if the sky fell in, if something happened and you couldn't
Yesterday.
work, how
Always
much?
put it in the past.
Yeah. But if how long would you survive? What is in your
Yeah,
buffer account? And then, you're going to get people going, what buffer account? We're self-employed. There kind of needs to be a little bit, so a lot of people
cushion.
might be super lucky and be able to go, mom, dad, friends,
Mm.
partner, whatever. But what if not? What about you? How do you sleep at night? What's in your buffer account kind of
And
thing? And
income
again,
protection, of course, as well. I don't know how many people generally have those policies, but yeah, it's just so worth paying out for.
yeah, so we've got somebody who talks to that subject
Actually,
as well,
one of
haven't
the things about our platform as well, for one of the member benefits, is that you can ask the experts. So you can ask one of our experts anything you like, and it will go in the group for everyone to see the answer. And you can ask it anonymously because,
we? Yeah.
it sounds awful, but if some people are not educated financially. We generally self-employed people, we don't have that financial education, and it might feel a bit uncomfortable, embarrassing to ask a question. So yeah, that you can ask it anonymously. We'll answer it. We'll ask our team, get some great feedback for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really important because, like I say, we've got these kind of arenas of information, and then we've got our rolling calendar of experts. The other part of what we do is going to be a closed community, and very much in that community, we do, it'll find its own energy, and we'll answer the needs
Yeah.
of our members. But we're going to really kind of keep to the fact we're going to kind of really keep putting into the fact the worthiness of charging our career, and the fact it's a job, and that kind of money mindset. And when we talk about building wealth, I don't know how that sits with you guys, but sometimes when I hear that, I'm like, well, that's not me. Wealth, I'm kind of like, that's somebody else, that's not me, that's more zeros than I've got kind of thing.
Yeah.
It isn't. Wealth is just simply your story and your money. And it says building wealth, so you can be starting with minus figures. Your building of your wealth is what that community is going to be. And we're not tolerating anything that isn't kind and supportive of everybody in the group's wealth and growth. There's enough for everyone. We're going to charge appropriate fees, we're going to feel worthy of those fees, and we're going to support each other's successes. And we are talking directly, not to a successful diagnosis, because there's many brilliant platforms that are already hopefully celebrating that. We're going to be talking to the fact that we're having the work-life balance that we set out to have. And the number in the bank allows us to sleep at night. Simple as that.
Yeah.
That's what our group is gonna be. And like Jane says, within that group, if everyone wants to join anonymously, that is absolutely fine. We have no problem with everybody joining the group anonymously, all of our members being anonymous within the group. And then, if you're more comfortable to ask the questions anonymously, shoot, doesn't matter to us.
The other thing that we mentioned on a slightly different tangent is it's incredibly stressful worrying about money, incredibly stressful. And because of this dynamic where we do work, we get money, it's very uncomfortable. So it's kind of taking the stress out of it. And we know that if you're not worried about money, you definitely bring your better self into the clinic. And then it's an upward spiral. You're going to do a better job. You're going to be more popular. You're going to get better feedback because you're bringing your best self. But if you are going into a clinic stressed, you haven't slept, you're worried about money, it's a really horrible tight feeling, isn't it? It's not nice. So that's why I think it's really important to us, isn't it? Our wealth as a
it's so important. And again, a wealth, it sounds like such a kind of royal word, but we want to take that away from it. We want to talk about our own wealth, and we can talk about wealth in terms of how we feel in ourselves as well. How do we feel about our own deserving of charging, and feeling comfortable with the fact that we work this many hours and we see this many patients and we charge this much for it, kind of thing. I think eliminating that kind of quiet stress, which all self-employed people, I mean, I've had the clinic for a million years, and we still have days where I'm like, oh geez, we need more staff, we're so busy, oh God, I hate it. And then other days where it's like, oh geez, my poor staff, where's the bookings gone? Still 24 years on, and I worked for a brilliant guy when I first started, and he said exactly that to me. He has one week where he's like, gosh, I need to hire. And then the following week where he's like literally embarrassed looking at his own team, like, oh, I'm so sorry, you're not busy today, kind of thing. That's just self-employment, and it just ebbs and flows with the world around us, kind of thing. But again, we want to be able to talk to those stresses, understand that, and support each other through those stresses. But equally, the other thing is, if there are alternative income streams, if there's a buffer account, if there is whatever stage, if somehow we're over here and we're planning for our maternity leave, or we have started a pension.
You're not pregnant, are you?
Little announcement.
Actually, what we haven't discussed is that we are very, very grateful to have Gilly on our team as our expert in marketing, which we...
Oh, thank you.
Well, it can't be ignored, can it? More patients through the door with the best operations, because you deal with the operational side of setting up a clinic. If you've so there's two things there, isn't there? More numbers coming through the door at the figure you've decided to charge, with your fabulously subtle encouragement to be charging the correct fees, which we're all on the same page with, but more of those correct fees coming through the door. And the operational side of things that you deal with, Gilly, is hopefully helping everybody with that work-life balance as well. Exactly. And the fact that we're not burnt out by Thursday night and we've still got Friday to go, kind of thing.
It's such a big problem that there's so many people that are, they're living a very stressed out life due to all that we've been talking about. There's that fear of putting fees up, and fear of not having enough money in the bank, and all that kind of thing, and fear of what if I'm not well and I can't work. And it's a lot to live with on a day-to-day basis. And like you've already pointed out, Jane, it's then difficult to go into clinic with a good, clear head where you can function at your best. And that's why I think, it is important that foundations, for me, the actual running of the clinic is so important. And I'm really mostly known for marketing, but as I progressed with Osteobiz from it's 13 years old now, I sort of got more and more into operations. I think I'm like a time and motion person. I'm like, gosh, that's so inefficient. How can we streamline that? And I've got a mind that does that. And my son's here at the moment, and he's working for Google. He's a project manager, and he seems to have the same mind, where he can go, if I do this little I don't even know what they're called, prompt in a cell in the spreadsheet, it suddenly goes and information flies out to my team in India, and they've got everything they need. And it's like, how did he think of that? It's like makes my head explode. But bringing it back down to the clinic, it's like, if it's really well organized and has robust operations, it's so much easier to run. And again, that big chunk of fear and that worry about, have I done everything, sort of goes. The admin drops to almost nothing.
A good center of it all is, how much do I need to earn? How
Yeah,
much do I actually need? That this is absolutely the core of everything, isn't it? If I need to know what it costs to run the life that I want to live outside of work, I need to know what my clinic's bringing in. Are they aligning? And if they're not, then, until you have that information, you can't move forward. And it
no,
can be quite, I think perhaps that's even the sticking point. It certainly has been for me. I know, Mel, that you asked me this question, what was the big change for me in terms of finances? And it really was the dreaded spreadsheet and everything. How much do I earn? What do I need to run every single aspect of my life? Like spending money, what do I want left? And to actually look at that on a spreadsheet, it's so important. It's not
It's
always you
quite
want to do it, but
empowering, isn't it?
that's the
It's
core
so
of everything.
It's
yeah,
really empowering, and Jane and I have talked that we while we do our numbers over here, and we need to really understand a basic profit and loss over here. We look at our lives as a business as well. So the same calculator that we're using over here for the business, we said it would be really smart to have a tool so as all of our members can just work out what, as if their life was a business. So, here's my mortgage or my rent, here's my utilities, my Wi-Fi, my mobile phone, my petrol, my transport, my this. This is what I want in a fund to go on holiday once a year. This is what I want to stick in an ISA. This is what I want cash in my pocket or cash in the bank, blah, blah, blah. Run that like here's the expenses. And that's what that cost. Have a little look, like a little, run your life like a business, and then you really know what your money is. So you've started there, then bring it back. What do I need to earn? And that can
yeah,
come back to how many people through the door and what fee am I charging them? And if there is a discrepancy in there, where are the adjustments? Where are the adjustments? Because are pretty much talking about, I hope, I really hope it gives, it's no secret that the kind of numbers, particularly osteopathy, the numbers in the profession are changing. And I really hope that something like Hands on Money can really help if we talk to the hard truth of the business end of, this is our job. It's our job. Yes, it's really wonderful to be so incredibly good at there's brilliant, brilliant people not earning enough money.
yeah, I agree.
I mean, it's not just the rich ones that are good at diagnosis.
No,
That's not true, is it?
no,
We are just really hoping by meeting this education gap, and that's all it is, an education gap, and meeting those needs and making this bit of being a self-employed practitioner easy. It gives more longevity to your career, and more people will stay in the profession. So,
yeah,
because we do see a lot of people going, I'm done, I want out. What are you all doing? What are you using your degree for that isn't this? Because it ain't working out.
And
breaks my
as
heart.
you mentioned, I work part-time now and I'm quite happy. And this is actually, that it's with Gilly's help. She's helped me enormously streamline my clinic, my practice,
Thank you.
and it suits me. And it's quite Mel, live my best life, but it is great. I can work 3 days a week.
Yeah.
I can go and see my family. I can have time just to relax, chill out. Those things are important to me. Um, yeah, it's
So it
and
just
so for that
brings.
reason, it would be a great profession. It is a great profession,
Yeah.
to get more people to join that,
Again, I'm gonna kind of add to. I mean, Jane's success story has, revealed itself before my very eyes because we have this very long relationship. And Gilly, you are integral to that. Your brilliant work with Jane. I watched all that happen, kind of thing, for my dear friend here, and she deserves every bit of success and living
She
her best
does.
life that she is having now. But again, I will say that this can be a brilliant, brilliant life. And I've said this to both of you before. Sometimes I know I like working. However, there are days where I'm like, oh, I never stop working. And I have a very big birthday coming up. There are a lot of days where I think, I haven't done a day's work in my life. Like honestly, both of those things. So, 1,000 years ago, I decided I wanted a family and I wanted to pick my own kids up from school. I wanted to go to the nativity play and sports day without asking someone if that was okay. I didn't want to stress because it was half term or the summer holidays, or I wanted to take
Yeah.
a month in Europe with my family. And I've done all of that. Now trust me, there's other sides, and all of our members, as Hands on Money gets going, they're going to see the good, the bad, and the ugly of it. But I can honestly tell you, I've done all I picked my kids up from school, and I think that's possibly, if you're my kind of woman, that kind of means a lot,
It
kind of thing.
does.
And there was a lot of, I wasn't broke while I was doing it. I was running a clinic. We were open 5, 6, sometimes 7 days a week, meeting need. And
Yeah.
Jane's watched that, haven't you, Jane? The other way around kind of thing. You've watched how I've,
Yeah.
managed to make a living, but be a mum as
yeah.
well.
Yeah. So
It's
important
so
because
entirely possible. Whatever you want, you might not want what I had, but I wanted that. And I can tell you, I opened that clinic day one with 5 staff. I had no idea how I was going to get any of them busy.
well
5
done.
people I got to work for me, and we opened the doors, and somehow it's still there.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is so important. One of my clients has she's also got her all set up properly, and she went from very part-time work at her own clinic. It wasn't it was very slack indeed, and having to work a couple of associate jobs in London, so she wasn't getting home till 10:30 at night. And she was just like, is this life? It's grinding her down. And I'm so glad she came on board because, she said, well, I've got these things I want to do. Very similar to you, Jane, in that you wanted a dog. I remember
Yeah,
distinctly.
yeah.
You wanted
Still a
to be
goal.
settled enough that that was a possibility, because it wasn't at the beginning. And with this girl as well, it's like, she like got a boyfriend, and she was thinking she really wanted to settle down and have a family and all that, but it wasn't looking at all possible with the situation she found herself in. And in a matter of months, she had saved up a deposit for her house.
Wow.
She'd got rid of the 2 associate jobs that she really hated. She I don't know, I can never remember which way round she did all this. Then she had a baby. So she went on mat leave, and her associate remained busy, and she barely touched the clinic while she was off. Barely.
There you go.
Ran
And if
itself.
that doesn't sell a profession, I don't know what will.
Exactly
Absolutely
that.
true.
She
Yeah.
had utter freedom, to enjoy that brand new baby. Because as you know as well, Melina. Well, my 6'3" has just gone out the door to Heathrow to fly back to Munich. It's gone. Is they
Yeah, you
don't.
blink.
They're not spoiled for long, are they?
Yeah, you,
Um,
you blink and you're not, they're not. And 100%, my gratitude for setting my world up the way I did is always there, and I am, I'm proud of it. But I think one of the things that I didn't see happening was when my parents became very unwell. So
mm,
there was a whole period, the Harrison Clinic had been going at the time. possibly just under 10 years, around the 10-year mark, something like that. And, my parents were of an age where they were really, really struggling. And I lost both of them within 3 years. But I was able at that point to put Kate, our brilliant manager, Jane, you'll remember Kate, ask her, she was a receptionist. And I just said, I can't deal. I had two young kids and I had my parents, which kind of at the time felt like I had four young kids,
Wow.
and I was able to literally, I mean, there were months. I mean, I certainly didn't step through the door, but barely have a conversation with anybody. So I took a very long time off, doing the bare minimum, looking at money, keeping us legal kind of thing,
Yeah.
um, and caring for loved ones. So, again, this can work, but you
Yeah.
you absolutely need, I think, more than the clinical degree that our universities are providing us. You do need to have a little bit of support and education and help and ease of knowing, starting, like Jane says, starting with knowing your numbers and how that all works, kind of thing, what that all means, and then asking help from the experts like yourself. Your work is so clear and so visible, brilliant accountants. If it's commercial property, we've got somebody brilliant who is going to be, talking about the difference between perhaps, leasing, purchasing, whatever, and how commercial is different from residential, but
Yeah.
spoon feeding us that kind of information that, is not is confusing unless it's somebody in our lane who knows what we're talking about, kind of thing.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
our commercial property expert is aligned with health, so he knows what he's talking about. He knows our
Brilliant.
world. We haven't just kind of, we're
Looking
not
at
just
another.
Googling this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. So yeah, I really just hope it answer, it comes back to, I guess a lot of in real time today, we see those calls for help on the social platforms, and we just hopefully are providing a community and a service that means the answers are there quickly,
Yeah.
for everybody.
Brilliant. And much like my service has, I'm sure yours will also morph and grow over the years as you spot other things that people are worrying about, or information that they need, or all those kind of things where you'll think, aha, there's another. Keep hit, because it's like I think we all do, is spot patterns.
Yeah.
It's like I keep hearing this because we're listeners as well. I was thinking earlier, I keep hearing things and they're different to what I was hearing 6 years ago, and what that means now and what people want now compared to what they used to want. It's very, in my world, they used to, 6 years ago, I've just been spotting in the last few days, they used to want a curriculum to work through
Mm.
in a group program. Let's have that, and then start here and you do all these things and you pop out the other end. And what I've noticed with my group stuff now is they want more leadership and guidance than they want to be having to study something else. It's like,
Yeah.
I've just launched a new course called Osteobiz Balance, and it's a membership, and that's going to have resources much like yours, where you can go and dip in and go and get what you want, but you don't have to start at the top and work down, which is always
Yeah.
how things used to be. And I
Yeah.
think that, that's what people are wanting now. They just want go and get the bit that they need today,
Mm.
and then they'll come back next week and dip into something else if that's what they need. But it's not like that overwhelm of you've got to do all this stuff.
No.
I think
Yeah,
the
I love
world's
that.
changed.
It's so much more, it can be so much more bespoke then, can't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
I love that, Gilly, because it sounds so similar to the arrangement. There's no start here, finish here. It's like there's all the arenas. Which one do
Yeah.
you need today? And it's instant, and it's bespoke and perfectly aligned to the world that we work in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're not filtering out. We've got some, obviously, with AI and everything. There's some brilliant. We can get quick answers, but do they really know our world? So I think sometimes that
The
kind of
nuances.
authority, yeah, the authority behind it, really, really does help
I
the
think one of the main things I got from your group as well, Gillian, and hopefully we'll bring that to our own group, is just the actual support network as well.
Yeah.
That was so valuable to me, actually, starting out on my own. It is quite scary. And that sort of, it was gentle in the group, wasn't it? There was a gentle support. There was no
Yeah. No one-upmanship
readiness,
or
but it wasn't. It was what I needed, and I, yeah, it's such a quite an isolating career. Um,
yes.
and so
oh
to
yeah.
have that team, it was so valuable. And I hope that's what we bring as well, because there's no embarrassing questions. Just ask it. We all got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, and inevitably, at least one other person will go, do you know what? I've been thinking about that myself. And I didn't like to ask,
Yeah.
So it's good to ask questions because there will always be someone else who's saying, I've been struggling with that as well. And I
Mm.
didn't know what to do, and I didn't like to put my hand up. It's better to just get it out there and just go, what does everyone else do with this problem? Or how do you
Yeah.
manage that, or whatever it is? Yeah, it's
So
I'm
true, isn't it? It's a lonely profession. I mean, I don't know what the numbers are, but I guess over 50% of osteopaths are sole traders working completely alone
yeah. And in
thing.
my experience, a lot of them are small, like one or two people.
Yeah.
So, as I mean, and this is what I hear again is people say, I've got no one to bounce ideas off. It's just
Yeah.
me. And my husband doesn't understand what I do. Don't go
No,
asking
community
him.
is so important. It's so
Yeah,
important.
isn't it? Because people will be in the same boat as each other with the same issues or similar.
I think as well, like, Jane knows, my team is from day one has been multidisciplinary. So I've never just had an osteopathic clinic. We've always had physiotherapists, sports masseurs, acupuncturists, nutritionists, whatever in the team.
Mm.
And the problems are all exactly the same.
Yeah,
Honestly, it really, none of this is exclusively osteopathic at all.
no,
Anybody who is a clinician. And so I mean, I guess our physio colleagues, a lot of them do work in the NHS at some point, but if they're venturing over if they're starting immediately in private practice, or they're venturing from an NHS situation to, in fact, sometimes it's worse if they've had an NHS looking after them with regards to, here's your paycheck, and
yeah,
I've taken out your contribution to your pension, and your tax is paid for you, and the holiday pay is safe. If you had all that, and then you come into a world of like, well, if you're on holiday, have fun kind of thing. It's
yeah,
sometimes even harder kind of thing to get your head around the fact that this stuff doesn't just magically happen kind of thing. You've got
exactly.
to kind of look at the numbers and do something yourself and understand it kind of thing.
Yeah, I've had clients who've come out of the NHS, they've been doing something else and they've retrained.
Mm.
And the idea of marketing has like never occurred to them because it's not a thing, is it? You just walk out the door and there's a body on the chair and you sort the body out and then you come out and there's another one sitting on the chair. And it's like then they suddenly go, but Gilly, I've got no patience. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Aha.
it's not that easy anymore. You're going to have to put a
Yeah.
little bit of effort in now.
Yeah,
But this is it. It's a very different world, isn't it?
yeah,
So
yeah, it really is. It really is. But nevertheless, it's a job. And what we get paid for, it pays for our lives. And those figures really need to be what we want them to be and understood. A
yeah,
little bit of the business hat has to go on um, to enjoy the career that you wanted to do, I guess. There's no
yeah,
escaping it, is there? There really is no escaping it.
no,
If you're self-employed, you're in business, and you kind of really, even if you've got the most brilliant accountant, who sorts your tax affairs out at the end of the year and all the rest of it kind of thing, wouldn't it be nice to know each week, each month, each day, whatever your style is, what's yours and what's not in that bank account?
yeah,
Really dividing up how much is going in the tax account, how much is going in the rainy day account. Can I really afford that new pair of jeans, that new pair of shoes? Can I save for a holiday? Is there some money for an ISA? You know, as even if you've got, like I say, the most brilliant accountant who keeps you safe as houses kind of thing, you're all set and clean regards to, you know, the tax office, HMRC. It's really nice that you know what your money looks like, not just once a year when you pay that bill kind of thing on the 31st of Jan, or if you're limited, you know, the end of December kind of thing.
Yeah,
Really empowering, really empowering.
it is, because so many times I've heard or read, you know, yikes, it's the tax bills here, and I don't have enough for it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's literally just not knowing your numbers, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And that fear, you know, even you just saying those words out loud kind of thing, I'm sure that just puts a little bit of you know, through a lot of people. Whereas if you know, no, I've kind of, you know, I've had a conversation with my accountant, or you know, I've done the maths, I've used hands-on money calculator, I know how much should be going into that tax account this month. You know, that you're like, I'm good. I'm good. You know, thing.
Yeah, it's reassuring, isn't it?
Yeah, it really
And
is.
and hopefully, as people progress through working with you guys on the platform, they'll get to a point where they'll go, oh, the numbers are looking better. You know, the I'm topping up the ISA, and you know, see little pension growing and things like this. Because it doesn't have to be like all at once, does it? It can be, you know, I'm putting away an extra 50 quid a week, or anything is better than nothing, isn't it?
It really is, and we can't stress that enough. And like I say, the word wealth, don't think it doesn't include me. We're inviting anybody, you know, even if the starting point is I'm in debt. You know, this is for anyone who's going, you know what, I'm dealing with it. I'm getting the spreadsheet out of, you know, we call it the spreadsheet, but I'm going to do the calculation. I'm gonna draw a line in the sand. I'm going to know where the numbers are, and I'm going to start, you know, making a difference for myself. I want to sleep at night, you know. So it's for everybody. It doesn't matter if you're a graduate and you've got 70 grand debt and you've got God knows what overdraft on your bank account. It is for everybody, you know, right up to people who might have a few quid in the bank and they're like, right, you know, I want to start thinking of exit strategies now.
Yeah.
You know, and we have got financial advisors who are dealing with all sorts of things at that end, you know, inheritance tax and everything here. And then we've got financial advisors over here who are going, right, you're in your 20s. If you get going now, 11 million for you.
Oh.
Or early retirement for you, or career breaks for you, or long summer holidays for you, whatever you want it to look like, kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
But knowing the numbers is 100% the start of you know, that silent stress not being a thing anymore, and taking control and carving your own path.
Yeah. Something, I don't know where I read it now, some book I was reading, was saying how important it is to control your money, not have your money control you. And I thought
That's
that
nice.
was powerful,
Yeah.
because it can kind of be there as a constant worry, can't it? It's like, you know, have I got enough all in my different pots for different things I've got to get done? And it's like for me that sort of flipped the mindset slightly. It's like, no, I control the money. The money does not control me. That's not a good relationship when it
Not a good relation. And you know,
sense.
the other thing is that talking about money, and we're going to do a lot of talking about money as well, you know, is a tool. It doesn't identify you, because, you know, somebody can feel extremely rich because they've got a few hundred quid in the bank. They're like, I'm good. Look at me. And then other people can have a few million in the bank and be really worried. So there's no number that is associated with wealth at all. You know, it's simply a tool, and the number does not define you. It really, really doesn't. It is a mechanism. It is a tool. It's as simple as that. And you know, a lot of we've got coaches, money mindset coaches, who can really, really help us if we struggle with our relationship with money. And that could be, you know, historic, that could be from our parents and the kind of talk around money that we grew up with and what we were listening to. You know, it's not necessarily our own doing at all. I think another thing that Jane and I want to introduce into the group is a book club as well. So we want to suggest some kind of money mindset reading for the month of whatever, April, May, whatever, and then just invite discussion around
Mm,
these. There's some brilliant literature out there that can sometimes, a bit like you heard that statement there, I control my money, it doesn't control me.
yeah,
There's brilliant literature out there that really can, all of a sudden put a light bulb on, and we can feel differently about money and let go of perhaps some of the history that we grew up with.
that
Um,
money doesn't grow on trees line,
all of
which
that.
most of
Definitely.
us heard as kids.
Yeah, yeah, all of that. Or, if you just grew up with a quiet fear around money, in your home, a feeling of scarcity, or, I mean, I'm guessing not too many of us grew up with a feeling of great abundance and there's enough for everyone kind of thing. But if you can reach something that is approaching that, it's quite freeing, you know.
Yeah,
It really is.
yeah,
I choose. I'm not a victim to it, kind of thing. Yeah.
very
We just want to
important.
talk about the fact it's a job, it's a living,
Mm.
because it just doesn't seem to be out there at all, and making sense of it, the business end, and then, hopefully it keeps the osteopathic profession, the physiotherapy profession, these hands-on professions robust, and we're not getting people leaving where that didn't need to happen if they were supported in this education gap.
No, so agree with you there. It breaks my heart when I see someone's considering leaving when it's so needed at the moment in particular. And look, AI isn't going to be able to do your
No,
job.
it ain't doing that, is it?
No, so is
Definitely
it
ain't
like,
doing that.
I saw a terrible headline on the Metro, the Tube newspaper, Metro, I think it is. It said 1 million 18-year-olds on the scrap heap. And it was alluding to, AI are taking all the jobs. And
Mm.
and I just thought, it's ridiculous. That's typical journalism there, getting everybody upset and worried. Like, here you go, all the ones who are interested in the sciences get into osteopathy.
Yes.
People need it. We
Yeah.
I go every month because I sit in a chair all day long, and I know that I don't move enough, and that keeps me really healthy. And I would never stop going because I just think it makes it's common sense to me now to just, have little things tweaked and ironed out before they turn into big things. It just makes utter common sense to me. And we have got an aging population, so we know that there's a lot of work out there for your hands. So,
Oh,
yeah,
there's a huge amount. I mean, a huge amount. And like you say, if you just go to the issue of AI, you're 100%, the AI is not going to touch you, is it?
no,
And that's it. It might be able to, I don't know, do a
support
bit
you,
of it
but
might be able to do a rehab program,
yeah,
for a pseudo human. But you'd rather somebody, if it was for your ankle, had the practitioner had their hands on your ankle and
yeah,
actually knew what the function of that ankle was like and designed your rehab program, kind
yeah,
of thing.
exactly.
For sure. So yeah. Well,
Well,
it's our little, it is early days, and I think you're absolutely right, Gilly. It'll find its energy. We kind of talking to what we think we're answer, is needed at this point, but really where hands-on money goes will be guided by, the people that want to use us
the
and the questions
members, yeah,
they're asking. And you're
yeah.
absolutely right. Had we set something like this up when Jane and I entered the profession 3 million years ago, it would look very different kind of thing. We
Yeah.
wouldn't
Yeah,
be doing our first free webinar on making tax digital, would we? We would have had the pencil out kind of thing, or
Oh,
the pen
yes.
out filling in a form, going, oh gosh, I
so,
did it wrong, kind of
so
thing.
true. Oh, so what's the website then, Jane?
It's called Hands on Money, just handsonmoney.co.uk. So the launch date is officially the 1st of April. But you can visit the website now. There's just a homepage there. You can see there's, apart from making tax digital, we've got a couple of other upcoming webinars that people might be interested in. Yeah, there's one with our colleague Nigel, he's recently been on Channel 4. We're very excited. I've known Nigel for a long time. And his side hustle is print on demand. So he can, it's a great business. So there are people that will print your products. All you do is design and create the he'll tell you more about it. But anyways, that's it. And then also we've got Alistair's going to be giving us a talk about in spite of what we've just been saying about potential side hustles, or if you are looking to change careers, we get it. It's physical, it's demanding. So he can sort of talk us through that. And then later in the month, we're going to meet Jonathan, who we mentioned earlier, who's got a lot of experience trading and teaching people how to trade in sensible language. So not none of the sort of dramatics that you're going to see. So he'll give you some solid facts, information. He's a very calm, cool guy. So
he's great. And we're talking about trading stocks and shares. So, a simple little account that you can have. And, again, you don't need to be wealthy or have a lot of money to do it. You can start with very little. And, in any interest you're making on a daily, weekly basis, it's money you didn't make. It's money you made without having to put your hands on someone. I think another live we're going to do as well is, Jane and I are going to do one about the associate principal relationship, because we just see a lot of questions. We've done all of these lives really based on what we've noticed on the social pages that people are asking about. So certainly people do ask about side hustles, and if a side hustle can keep somebody in the profession, that is great. But, if somebody genuinely is like, what, it's not what I thought, I want out, then fair enough. That's it kind of thing. We can answer that question as well with our careers guy. But Jane and I are going to do a live as well in that first month or so about the principal associate relationship, and we'll talk about MRC, won't we, Jane? Percentage splits, making it work, the laws and the terms and conditions, and the humanity of it.
Yeah, and just invite people. That would be really great to have other people's experiences of employer associate relationships. That would be great, helpful.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you for joining me today, Jane and Mel. It's been
Thank you
for having us.
My pleasure. It's been great exploring what you're doing, and I think it's a great little gap that you've spotted and filled brilliantly with a thoughtful platform that's going to really support people on that money side of things, which it doesn't need to be as much of a pain as it can tend to be for us self-employed. It's it is lonely at the top. It is the buck stops with us, doesn't it? And I think it's a fantastic idea, and I can't wait to get in there and have a rummage myself.
We're so delighted that you're with us, Gilly. It's great.
Yeah,
exactly. Brilliant. So grateful to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Osteo Business Podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe on all Gilly's channels, which can be found in the show notes. Gilly's back soon with more tips, ideas, and strategies to build your thriving practice.